So, why have you chosen to cover Southeast Asia for Reuters?
I didn't really choose it, actually. I am a native New Yorker and wanted to have international experience. And since I'm ethnically Thai and I have Thai citizenship, it was the first thing that was. I wanted to come to Hong Kong, but it's very difficult. It's very competitive here. I'm actually very lucky that I am a Thai citizen and I landed a job at Reuters, and it keeps me close to Myanmar, which is, my heart. so
So, do
I'm
you
very lucky.
mostly cover Myanmar
I
or?
do actually. I do cover mostly Myanmar. It's the hottest news in the region, and maybe 5 stories a week come out of Myanmar. Sometimes it gets quiet lulls, but not really. It's still very demanding, especially with our clients. It's still a very demanding story.
So, with the media opening up, how high is the demand for good journalists in Myanmar?
It's very difficult right now. The local journalists in the country, they're not that many, and the ones that exist still don't really know the basics of journalism. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them don't know the who, what, when, where. You have to have both sides, and you have to have more sources. So some of the basics of journalism that we learned, perhaps maybe in junior high school or high school, they still don't know. Again, it's not all of them. And there are not that many journalists there. A lot more foreign journalists are coming in, so that's good. But in terms of local journalists there are very few good ones.
So, is there like a high demand for foreign journalists to come in?
Perhaps within the international interest, but I think within the country they need to fix their own locals first. I don't think there is a high. I could be wrong. Reuters has been inside Myanmar since the 70s, I think. So even though it's opened up, we've always had a presence there.
So, during the panel, we talked about the hottest stories in Myanmar. So, what are the three top stories coming out of there?
Definitely the ethnic tensions. I highlighted it a lot in the panel of the Rohingya Muslims. There are about 800,000 Rohingya Muslims who are basically stateless. They're not recognized by Myanmar, they're not recognized by Bangladesh. They're taking these very dangerous sea trips to get out of that region, and the women are getting sold as sex slaves, the men are in labor situations that are obviously not good. There's just a lot of trafficking, and that's a horrible story, and it's heartbreaking. And the riots that happened, radical Buddhist monks are leading movements into burning down Muslim businesses or homes. So that's one. I guess the election, this came up in the panel as well, the 2015 presidential elections, and whether pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi will run, if she will be able to run. That's going to be a story coming up. And the ASEAN Forum is next year, I believe, 2014. And Myanmar was never really able to host the ASEAN summit ever because of all the human rights problems. Human rights problems are still going on. But they are going to be the host, and that's a big thing. It's going to be in Naypyidaw, which is the capital. Yangon is the commercial capital, and it was the former capital. But now it's going to be in Naypyidaw, which is a completely foreign place. Even for myself, I've never been there. So I think those three are. There's so many, so maybe those three are big ones.
There was a little discussion about whether or not Aung San Suu Kyi would be possibly running during the elections,
Yes.
and she's been a huge icon to democracy.
Correct. Yeah.
Do you think she's had a role in media and that opening up at all?
Well, she was under house arrest for 20 years, for the better part of 20 years. Her biggest role was to give the people hope, I think. I'm not Burmese, and I've never lived there. So I think her biggest role was, fighting for democracy, and it was worth fighting for. One of the reasons it did open up was President Thein Sein. Also, he was part of the old regime, the closed military regime, and he came in to the presidency and encouraged Aung San Suu Kyi to run for a seat in parliament. He took her off house arrest. So even though he's not perfect either, he also played a role in the opening up. And of course, Aung San Suu Kyi, as you said, is an incredible figure, incredible icon for Myanmar. As a journalist, I don't feel one way or the other about her, but a big role in the opening up, as you said. Yeah.
So, as a foreign journalist working in Myanmar, have you also experienced the censorship on your own writing?
Um, no, luckily, no. I've experienced people complaining. I've experienced people like not liking Reuters and getting
Yeah.
emails. But censorship, I have to say, I don't think so. Not in my personal, not in my experience. But I've only been in and out for the past year, so I'm sure years prior there have been problems.
Cool.
So I've been
Perfect.
lucky. Okay.